Prepare to the dungeon.
Well, shit. The past 30 or so hours have been one hell of a ride, I'll tell you what. I'm still alive though, which is a goddamn miracle. I'm thankful for that. Hopefully it stays that way. Hopefully I won't be tracked down by some clandestine cabal and thrown into some godforsaken prison to rot for the rest of my years in darkness and dampness. Hopefully, come the 21st, we'll all still be alive, or at the very least, still be living in a somewhat stable society. I'll get straight on with it, from right where I left off last time. He stated, like it was a known fact, that I was going to help him, and finally I spoke up. And why would I do that?
Look, I know you're the lead engineer in this project, that it was you who spearheaded the design of these lasers, and I know that, obviously, you do have a vested interest in seeing this experiment come to fruition.
Well, yeah.
But I also know that the people who are paying you haven't disclosed everything. And I hope that you're the kind of person who might have a change of heart once they hear what that is.
And what's that? But the guy just shook his head.
Not now. Tomorrow. We have work to do now. You go home. Sleep. You'll need it.
How do I know I can trust you? How do you know you can trust me? He shrugged.
You don't. I don't.
I thought for a moment. He seemed like a good guy. Of course, I had a lot to lose, but if he was right, then I had everything to lose. Alright.
See you tomorrow.
Yep. And they let me leave, just like that. Said they were going to stay, scout the building. I could have gone to the police, called my superior, and I thought about it. I really did. But in the end, I decided to see what this was all about. What can I say? I was curious. Next morning, well, a few hours later, I was startled awake by my phone ringing loudly beside me. It startled me because I've never heard the sound it was making before. It was sharp 8-bit jingle. I glanced at the screen and saw a new text message from an unknown number.
I'm outside. Black Audi. No rush.
Figuring it could only be one person, I dressed quickly and left, not knowing what to expect or how to feel. Outside, I spotted the car he described and slid into the front seat. The guy, who I assume was the one who pointed a gun at my head only hours before, was sitting in the driver's seat. He had woody-colored hair and was wearing a black suit. He honestly looked fairly ordinary. Where's the other guy?
Taking care of his kitten.
Oh.
Slept well?
What do you think? He didn't respond, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw him smile, a small smile.
Hungry?
No, coffee. He drove to a little diner about 30 minutes outside of town, parked, and we went inside, grabbing a booth by one of the windows.
So,
he began, but I held up my hand, looking around for the waitress. Coffee. He waited patiently until I had a good swig or 3 of the stuff, and then waited some more until I said, "You were saying?"
You sure you don't need another cup first?
I opened my mouth to retort, but he just smiled and said,
Have you ever thought about the kind of work TerraLab does? Really thought about it?
Honestly, I try not to. Most of it seems pretty far-fetched. Interesting, sure, but sometimes silly. I thought for a moment. It pays well. He nodded.
And is it worth it?
What?
The money.
Is the money worth what?
Your willful ignorance?
I scoffed. Look, pal, I don't know just who you are or what you want, but I don't appreciate your attitude. He held up his hands, palms open towards me, in a gesture of acquiescence.
I'm just asking.
I sighed. I don't know. You need money to live.
Yeah, but you also need the Earth too, and the atmosphere, and the moon.
Okay, explain.
You honestly think the laser you made isn't a proto-weapon? You think it's just there for the honorable and noble pursuit of science?
Yes.
You do realize that it very well might vaporize the atmosphere, explode the moon, or send it careening off into space, affecting tidal waves, the tilt of our axis, destroy entire ecosystems, which will obviously have global repercussions. You do realize that the giant laser you made might set the entire world ablaze, turning it into a hellish nightmare of destruction and death?
I blinked, then sighed. Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking and prove me wrong. And then he did something I wasn't expecting. I was expecting him to get mad or frustrated or fed up. To cuss me out, or at least try to teach me a lesson, either in physics or woo-woo space magic or something crazy and conspiratorial. Instead, he just sat back, laughed, then grinned in a good-natured sort of way.
It does sound damn stupid, doesn't it?
I nodded in reply, sipping more coffee.
Well, think of it this way. What good can really come of firing high-powered lasers at the moon? Really?
I mumbled something about physics and dark matter and black holes and the pursuit of science. The words sounded weak even to myself. He cleared his throat.
Create chaos, make money. Simple as that.
And you really think there are people evil enough, greedy enough to do that? He smirked.
You don't? They've been doing it for centuries.
They?
Them. The powers that be.
Oh, Christ. You're one of those people.
Do you know who pays you? Who funds TerraLab?
I didn't reply. Mainly because I didn't know. And a part of me didn't want to know. I took a large gulp of coffee, almost choked on it, but recovered quickly and said, So, what are you suggesting?
Sabotage. Tonight. You'll get us in. You know the building. But, most importantly, you know the lasers. How to dismantle them or, at the very least, disable them.
And what's in it for me?
Oh, just that fuzzy feeling you get when you save the fucking world!
The last people out of TerraLab, a physicist, a biologist, and an engineer, all left the building earlier than usual, around 11:11 p.m. Not even a minute later, there was a tap by the designated entrance point. I opened it, and they were in. They moved them, I immediately said.
What?
They moved the lasers. Earlier today, down to the abyss. I don't know why. I wouldn't allow it. They did it anyway. I would have told you, but I didn't know how to reach you. I don't have access to that level. Rather than let that deter or frustrate him, the man thought for a moment and then said,
What's the lowest level you have access to?
2 floors above it?
And there's a staircase, yes?
Yes, but it's locked right now.
Not a problem. Let's go.
We entered the elevator, and the younger guy quickly sprayed the camera with black paint. We made it down to the lowest floor I had access to unmolested, which was, honestly, odd. The entire building was empty, but it seemed to be watching us, listening. I knew exactly where all the cameras were, though, and we wove our way around them, just out of their line of sight. The staircase was in the far left corner of the room, behind a slightly rusted metal door. I led them over to it, unsure of how we were actually going to get it open. I leaned forward, looking at the knob. If only I had my propane kit, I could burn it off. The young guy standing behind me suddenly burst out laughing, and the man looked over at him.
What?
It's just... He laughed again. Oh, nothing. Doesn't matter. The man looked at him curiously, amused, but said nothing. He pulled out a lockpick and a tension wrench from his pocket, stuck them in the door, and raked, opening it swiftly, easily. Too easily. The staircase down was dark, but the dim red light from their flashlights made it safe to navigate, and soon we had descended the 2 levels down to the abyss. It was hotter down there, humid, almost like it was close to the heart of the earth, the core, and was being warmed by it. I knew that was impossible, but couldn't help thinking it. The man pulled out the lockpick and wrench again and unlocked the door at the base of the staircase, the door into the abyss, and swung it wide open, slowly, silently. Beyond the door was a long, dimly lit corridor. It looked like it had been hand from the stone. We had to duck our heads as we walked through it. What the fuck is this? I tried to block out what I was seeing, but I couldn't.
I take it you've never been down here before?
I mean, we were never really allowed. They just had us remote view the collisions from levels above, said it's safer.
Well,
he said, smiling back at me sinisterly.
It looks like they might have been right.
I shuddered, but kept walking, following the man. Behind me was the younger guy, gun at the ready, alert. Without meaning to, but unable to stop myself, I looked again at the walls surrounding us. On either side of us, lining the corridor, were strange, occult-like markings. They looked like incantations or blessings or wishes in some language that was more symbol than word. I couldn't place it. The strangest part about it, though, was that all the markings looked relatively fresh and were written in something that glistened black and purple and red in the light, something that looked an awful lot like blood. After maybe 10 minutes, we finally made it out of the corridor and into a cavernous space. I gasped. I wasn't expecting to see something so clearly non-scientific. It was off-putting, out of place, horrifying. In fact, it looked more like some kind of inner earth cathedral, complete with a creepy altar carved with too many eyes. And the eyes didn't look human, but otherworldly, alien. Stacked around the base of the altar were the bleached white bones of what I hoped were animals. I was afraid, yes, worried too, but I think the most horrific thing about being down in the abyss was seeing that, though big, it wasn't nearly big enough to be a particle smasher. Sinister, terrifying thoughts screamed through my head. Over the course of 3 years, I remotely viewed dozens of particle experiments, and there was never any indication that anything was filmed in another location or that anything was wrong at all. Which begged the questions, what were they showing us and how? And what the fuck was all this black magic shit doing in a building purportedly promised to science? Where is he? It was the younger man. He was looking around, his gun held ready. Wasn't expecting him to actually be here. But she's here?
Yep. Look.
The man held out his arm, pointing into the darkness near the back of the space, guiding our gaze. And there, near the side of the altar, suspended in a tank filled with some sort of viscous dark liquid, was the girl I saw earlier. She looked dead, and if it wasn't for the small monitor behind her measuring her weak heartbeat, I might have thought she was. The man walked over to the tank, walked around it, trying to see where it opened. I guess he couldn't find the opening because he swung the rifle off his back and began hitting the glass with its butt, hard. After the third or fourth time, tiny cracks began to appear, webbing outwards until, finally, the tank burst. Immediately, from all directions, a loud, low siren rang out and a cool woman's voice said,
"Breach in Sector 33. Breach in Sector 33. Prepare for full decontamination in T-6 minutes."
The dark liquid rushed out in all directions and, not knowing what it was, I leapt away from it. The girl fell with a heavy thud against the ground. She was still limp, unconscious, but the man was already kneeling next to her, unafraid of the liquid, checking her pulse. "Is she—"
Take her!
The man yelled to the young guy over the sound of the siren, cutting his question off. He pulled a thin blanket from his pack and wrapped it around her slim frame.
Take her back! Just go! Don't wait for me. I'll be there.
The young guy looked like he was going to say something back, but the man said,
Go! Now!
The young guy heaved the girl into his arms, nodded, and left, all without uttering a word. The man watched them for a moment before turning to me and saying,
Do you know what those lasers might be? Seems like we have a bit of a time limit.
What's going on? Who's that girl? Is that a goddamn pentagram carved into the floor? The man shook his head.
No time. Later.
The lasers were sitting behind a chain link wall that looked like it lifted from the top by means of a levee system. A long lever projected from the floor just to the left of the wall. I walked over to it and took hold, shoving the lever down, down, down until it wouldn't move anymore. The wall lifted up, allowing us access to the lasers. But then, suddenly, I felt something sharp and insistent and attention-grabbing. Pain. Lots of pain. Shit! I screamed and tried pulling my hands away, but the lever was stuck to them, burnt into my skin. I screamed again and shook my arms violently, causing the lever to fall to the ground. The sound of it echoed down the chamber, reverberating so loud it made my teeth rattle. Fuck! My hands! Burn the fuck out of my hands!
Come here, let me see.
The man walked over and looked at my hands. I didn't look down, but could tell by the expression on his face that it was bad. How am I going to work with the lasers now? My voice wavered.
You can walk me through it.
I just looked at him, skeptical. He didn't look like someone who would understand.
I'm serious. I'm a quick study. I've already read a bit about them anyway. And we've come too far to give up now. Come on.
He stepped underneath the lifted wall and over to the lasers, while I cuddled my hands, trying to ignore the white-hot pain flashing through them. Wait! But you don't know how to dismantle them. You might fuck up, blow us all to hell.
Well, go on then. Talk me through it.
Okay. I took a deep breath. Walk back around to this side and pop the decombo bolter door open. Inside, you'll see the fluxometer and the 3 Linstrata cords. Pull the leftmost cord.
Whoa, stop. It sounds like you're speaking technobabble.
That's because I am speaking technobabble. I'm scared shitless you're going to blow us all up. The man made an annoyed noise and said,
You really want to fucking die tonight, don't you?
And then he moved around the other side, the side I couldn't see, and I heard the latch open. He spent a good minute or two staring at it, shifting things here and there, all the while some sort of thick, smelly gas slowly boiled up from below, snaking around our ankles and up our legs. Finally, he pulled away and popped the panel back into place. What did you do?
Let's just say you won't want to be around Terra Lab when they run the Eclipse experiment on Monday.
I gaped at him. You saying what I think you're saying?
Depends. Does what you think I'm saying go boom at the end?
I shook my head, appalled. But there's a chance, a good chance, that won't work, that they'll find the fault, fix it, and carry through with the plan. He nodded.
There's also a chance that it might explode any second as well. Oh, and then there's the decontamination gas. So we should probably get the hell out of here.
Somewhere above us, the lady with the cool voice called out 60 seconds. This doesn't seem like the best plan. I jogged behind him, trying to keep up.
No, but it's an effective one. Either way, this place will be destroyed. It should be destroyed. TerraLab has been playing with fire for far too long. And you know what they say about playing with fire.
But what about all the people who work here? You're just going to murder them all?
Even after all this, you don't think TerraLab was using its own staff as guinea pigs?
I didn't respond, following him through the stairway door and up.
When was the last time you had your radiation levels tested by an outside source? When was the last time you felt good?
He glanced back at me.
It may not be pretty, but a quick death is better than a slow, excruciating one.
I still said nothing. Wrong or right, it was still pretty cruel. We made it back up the staircase, leaving the siren and the smell to die slowly in the darkness behind us. The man called the elevator, then turned to me.
There's one more thing I need to ask you.
Oh?
You asked how this was going to work. If it'll work. That's a good question. It can and will only work with our continued help.
I raised my eyebrows, but said nothing, and we entered the elevator together.
You're the person in charge of the lasers. You're the one who monitors them.
He paused briefly.
If someone's going to fix them, It's going to be you.
What are you trying to say?
I'm telling you to lie. I'm telling you that this will work, but only if you want it to. I know this plan is slightly compromised by your hands, that they might allow others to touch the lasers. Don't let them.
He paused for a bit.
Lie.
I looked him dead in the eyes, but didn't say anything back. I had a lot to lose. I had everything to lose. The man finally turned away and gestured with his head towards the place he had entered from.
Come on, let's get out of here. They'll be here soon.
We made it out. The sun was just rising over the horizon, spilling its light into the twilight sky, painting it dazzling pink and purple. The man thanked me profusely, then turned to leave. Before I could stop myself, I was calling out to him. Wait, I don't even know your name, who you are, why you're doing this. The man just grinned roguishly.
Maybe someday you will.
And with that, he turned and walked towards the east, towards the rising sun, into the light. I watched him for a moment, thinking deep, frightening thoughts, before turning on my heel and heading to the nearest hospital. I had nothing to lose. So, come Monday, keep a wary eye out. Watch the eclipse, with suitable protection, of course. Time it. If it lasts longer than 2 minutes and 40 seconds, you can kiss reality as we know it goodbye. Mainly because you'll be burnt to a toasty little crisp. If it doesn't, well, then you're welcome. It's in the dustiest books that you may find the best stories.